welcome to this session on cryptocurrency and blockchain. Upcoming trends, upcoming risks that we can expect. Today we have quite the panel, and I would like just to introduce the panel to you. So my name is Stella Simiu, and I will be the moderator for this session. And with me on the panel, we have Nuno Cortesao, and he is the co-founder of Zata. Zata is a startup that allows users to request loans backed by NFTs. So I'm hoping that Nuno can tell us a bit about that. And this startup will launch early in Q1 2022. He's been working in the field since 2017, being the head of blockchain in Portugal at Accenture and NTT Data. And he's an engineer with 7 years strategy and consulting background. Now, the other lady on the panel here with me is Josina Rodriguez, and she's a blockchain advisor and the first holder of the blockchain PhD in Portugal. So if you're interested in furthering your education on blockchain, she's the person to know. So before starting her thesis in 2016 as an economist, she worked for 20 years in the corporate world as a marketing and finance director and as a consultant and advisor for several companies based in Latin America and Europe. So she's currently a blockchain and digital transformation expert at the United Gulf Industrial Consortium, a trainer at Blockchain SVCS, a consultant for Kiva Chain and Jubix, as well as a lecturer on the digital economy. And we'll be hearing a lot more from her. So additionally, Josina is a member of the academic advisory body at INATBA, that is the International Association of Trusted Blockchain Applications, where she supported the MICA and the policy position on markets in crypto assets. So welcome all who have joined, and I'm looking forward to enjoying this panel together with you. So I'll just start off with Josina, and I will ask, why are we even here? What's so relevant about this topic we are talking about today? And what can we expect as we go along?
So thank you, Stella, and welcome, Nono. So first of all, I would like to thank you, PECB, for this opportunity. It's a pleasure to be here and to discuss all of these hot topics. So when introducing the topic, cryptocurrency and blockchain and their upcoming trends and risks and the new decade, I would like to start discussing that global economy has another kind of space to sell, to buy, to trade, and to invest in assets. So we are talking about crypto space and decentralized finance, or DeFi. Definitely, it's an emerging market. So while a while ago, cryptocurrency was a buzzword and a novelty only for nerds, was this kind of strange names for engineers. Now it's a part of our investment portfolio of almost all companies and individuals. Even though the central banks are creating their CBDC, central bank digital currency. So cryptocurrencies, they are important because they could furthermore solve problems of participation in international trade without having a bank account. Cryptocurrencies could help individuals and business to facilitate small-scale international trade. Well, okay, Josie, you were talking about a different world, definitely. Everything is changing. All the players, they are changing. Another way of how cryptocurrencies could help is increase financial inclusion to developing countries, is serving as a quasi-account bank. Since everybody with internet access or with this can code a crypto wallet. This wallet can be used as a bank account where people can conduct savings and daily transactions without payment or without fee. On the other hand, as we know, all cryptocurrencies are based in blockchain. So blockchain is an infrastructure, a distributed ledger that benefits included being shared, collaborative, transparent, and unchangeable, and allow through a verification system the proof of authenticity of each transaction. We are talking about trust. Through the use of blockchain that presents these benefits, companies will be able to coexist in a decentralized system, which allows all agents to be more efficient, cost-effective, and secure. Trust, again, is the word. So blockchain is changing everything in our business. Training for me and for PCB and for everybody that is giving your time to attending this panel, training continues to be the best answer to overcome the challenges in a post-pandemic world. And if we are effectively living already in a post-pandemic moment today, the integration of industrial, commercial structures in a crypto space is an irreversible path. These topics are so essential because they help us the answers of several questions. Each one of our decisions as entrepreneurships, like we are going to structure ourselves as professionals, how we are going to adapt as students, how we are going to draw our profile and training, or as leader of organizations, institutions, how we are going to decide in face of financial change and challenges in this new economy. Overall, cryptocurrencies and blockchains have redefined the ecosystems and created a new game for organizations. The relevance of the subject is linked to how we are going to interact in a universe that attempts to be metaverse, and we'll talk about. So thank you, Stella. I know that we have a lot of questions, but we are here to think together.
All right. Thank you, Josina, for that insight. Now, thinking about some of the things you've talked about, creation of a digital economy, financial inclusion. Nuno, where do you think, physical money and digital money intersect? Do I need to start throwing away my coins? What are you thinking?
Thank you, Josina, for the introduction. Thank you, Stella, for passing the word. So that's a very relevant question. I believe that Josina touched lots of ground that we can explore during this meeting today, but it's critical to understand where we are now. So we had cryptocurrencies came with Bitcoin that deployed all this ecosystem in 2008, and now almost 13 years are passed, and we are seeing a massive adoption. There was a graph that circulated on Twitter and on LinkedIn and the majority of social networks this week about the amount of users that are starting to adopt these new cryptocurrencies and blockchain itself, and how that correlates with the internet beginning. So we are basically on a new internet where yesterday we were able to interact, to read, to deploy, to create on that, but now we are able to own, and we are able to transact digital value without intermediaries, and that's a very powerful position. I wouldn't say to throw all your coins to the trash now, because maybe they are very useful, but we see that cryptocurrencies are coming to take a lead, and not only cryptocurrencies that are not regulated or that are being deployed on top of blockchains that fulfill the needs for payments, but we are starting to see also CBDCs emerging, and it's very interesting to explore both fields. So at the level of digital transactions, we have cryptocurrencies that go to a box, currencies and payment methods that are growing on an organic way by community driven, that fulfill the needs of the payment, that are trustful, that are based on cryptographic capabilities that didn't start now, that came from almost 40 years ago, and that work very well for the purpose that they were designed. We have some problems related with the footprint at level of energy consumption that are being tackled. But on the other hand, we also have CBDCs that are starting to emerge. And CBDCs are the central bank digital currencies, or the claim, a claim against a central bank and a capability to transact value. And this is something that we should keep an eye on, because we will have these two mechanisms will coexist. We will always have the regulation part that countries can try to block or can try to make cryptocurrencies development a little bit more difficult. But I believe that in the end we will have basically a correlation and a coexistence between traditional currencies and central bank digital currencies. And central bank digital currencies have already some use cases being explored by banks and by central banks. We have the Ecorona on Sweden, we have the central bank of the Bank of Thailand working on this, the Bank of Canada, the Bank of Singapore. So it's something that is being explored by real banks, by big corporations, and it makes sense because we start having cryptocurrencies booming. We see a mass adoption. We have 80 million people already using cryptocurrencies. And then if the banks and if the traditional institutions don't try to tackle this with their own tools, with their own capabilities, or try to not to redesign, but to adapt from these capabilities that are being developed by the communities at the level of central currencies, of cryptocurrencies, and if they build on top of it, they will be way successful. And so these are the two spaces that are pumping. We can go into, when we start talking about the future of finance and the capability to be unbanked, we see that the cryptocurrencies is a very sweet solution to help people that now don't have a traditional account. We can go with the example of El Salvador. El Salvador was it's at least now it's a very successful use case. We had El Salvador that designed Bitcoin, or that declared Bitcoin as a legal tender, and legal tender stands that it's possible to do the payments, and the state recognized those payments using that the cryptocurrency as valid. And we have almost 50% of people from El Salvador done the download of El Chivo, the platform for using Bitcoin at the country. It was a platform designed just for the El Salvadori people. And on the other hand, we just have 29% of users with a traditional bank account. So the usage of cryptocurrencies can be a blessing for people that are not represented in the traditional finance, that have difficulties because they don't have good documentation, or they don't have the capability to open a bank account because there are some barriers for them. And so it can be very, very interesting at the social level point of view. Okay, so that's critical. But this is it. So everything is being explored. As I'm talking, someone break through somewhere. So Josina, go ahead.
No, yes, it's fantastic. But if you can go 10 years ago, it can be completely from Julio Verne book. But what's happening is, pay attention, lawyers that attending our panel. You have a lot of different opportunities for new profiles, regulation. How can we deal every day with a cryptocurrency, a fiat, a regular currency, and CBDCs? So how you manage this in Europe, for example, we have a global statement, but for example, in El Salvador, Colombia, from Latin America, United States, they are trying to regulate it. So you have a lot of opportunities how we can deal and how can we, because we have a current that's trying to explain that we can have inflation with CBDCs and cryptocurrencies. I don't want to talk about the technical side for monetary economy, but don't forget, when a crypto is accepted, we have payment systems that support the economy, it's possible. The problem is, how can you regulate this? So it's just to wave in the Nuno's speech, sorry.
No problem, no problem.
No problem at all. We jumped in the quick spot to give an insightful vision, so go ahead.
Before we move on to regulation, which I will, Josina has brought a very key point. The lawyers who are listening to us are probably thinking about we are 5 years behind in terms of regulation, and already there are use cases, there are people using this. You've mentioned a number of use cases, and at the beginning, when we did your introduction, you mentioned, some of the aspects you're doing in terms of the startup you're working with, and I would just want you to talk a bit about decentralized finance and how that works in a public, in a private space. So probably we can hear from Nuno, and then we can move on to Josina.
Of course, he has a company in the FI space. So, please, the floor is yours.
I jump in then. So decentralized finance, the cool part of all these thematics is that everything is, we are on this so early stage that everything is together. Decentralized finance is a complete new branch of finance and economics here that correlates the capability of people to interact on a peer-to-peer model to do financing. So they can do loans, they can request to borrow, they can enable different use cases from lotteries where nobody loses to capabilities to do stacking and to basically to ensure a new way of creating bank accounts that provide interest because people are sparing. And my company works a little bit on the field. So when I was I worked 5 years in blockchain corporate, so working at Accenture, Entity Data. I also worked for Self-Focus. It was part of Vodafone. And we were doing corporate blockchain. So how we would place blockchain in the center of companies so that they could leverage the power of the traceability of the transactional level and create use cases that were meaningful and that they could take corporations to better provide services to their customers. Now I'm working a little bit in the other space. So I'm together with two colleagues, and the three of us, we co-founded Zarta. Zarta is a company that leveraged this concept of decentralized finance. So we are creating smart contracts, and smart contracts is the contracts that run on top of blockchain that are autonomous, that they can interact without intermediaries in the middle. And we are building a solution where users that have NFTs is non-fungible tokens and are the new digital property per se, so are kind of assets that are represented into a blockchain. And we are creating a solution where users can request loans using these assets as collateral, as a guarantee, and then take it further so that they can request loans on top of it. And then we give the other hand we join different peer-to-peer people, kind of a crowdfunding. I believe that there is no words for this, because the majority of this is such a novelty that even regulators don't have, and traditional people don't have semantics for it. But so we get everyone in a pool, and we are able to provide loans that are real time. And this is very interesting, because we are unlocking a finance that have more than $200 billion in assets now. So it's a very big number with a triple-digit growth for the future. And we are doing this for the assets that exist nowadays. And we want to take this as a solution that can fit all social levels, from people that have millions of dollars in assets to people that have small assets and require small loans. I can give you a very fair example, as we are social interaction is something very critical nowadays. We have the Philippines, where there is a game based on blockchain called Axie Infinity. People there are working with this and playing with this game and getting rewards at a very high level. So people are making 100 euros, 1,000 euros per month. So that's a lot of money in the Philippines. It's in Portugal, it's in the European Union, and it's in the US, and it's even more in the Philippines. And so we are, for example, creating a solution where users that have this kind of assets, if they need some cash upfront, cash, it's not a good word because it connects with fiat money, but if they need value or a loan on top of these assets, they can go to the platform, and instead of selling their assets that allow them to play the game and to get money for a revenue to feed their families, they can get a loan, they can repay the loan, and then they can reuse the asset. And so this decentralized finance kind of creates this connection between the peers. Everyone is interacting, and there is a solution that is financially sustainable. And the good part is that everything is built with trust on the root. So we have smart contracts where the assets are escrowed. There is no way of us to imagine that we take the assets because we want. No, that's something doesn't become possible. And we create this capability where users are super trustful in the solution, because they know that if they repay the loan, if they do everything all right, they will get their assets, no problem. And investors are also protected, because they know if there's someone that's trying to bias the system, that is going on default, doesn't pay the loan, they have the collateral so that they can reduce their risk. So we do this de-risking to everyone in the ecosystem. And decentralized finance is about this. It's about creating solutions that are new, that are full novelties, that explore these capabilities, this automation, and that can leverage the digital world. Josine, I don't know if you want to add some information.
Yes, I will. Like a teacher, like an actor, I would like to introduce some kind of examples for regular people, normal people, with this kind of acronyms, NFTs, DeFi, blah, blah, blah. So I am a painter, and I'm trying to find something here, and I created this, Nuno. And I would like to create an NFT. This is an art, okay? So how can you help me? First of all, as a creator of NFT. So yes, I created this. It's a painting, my personal painting. And I know that I can make money with my art. So how can I proceed?
So that's a very interesting question. So basically, NFTs are going a little bit back.
Yes.
NFTs are non-fungible tokens, and these basically are one of the concepts that blockchain bring. We created with the cryptocurrencies the capability to create some kind of value transaction that is fungible. And I'm not going into fungible and non-fungible, or I start talking a lot because the deep technology and deep economics concepts, but basically NFTs are assets that are unique. That's the part of non-fungible. They are unique. They represent something in the digital world. And so we are arising with a set of use cases that we can build on top of this. As Josino was saying, we can go into digital art or real art and creating IP, so intellectual property on top of it, and we are seeing some people doing this with art with the musics, with everything that is.
Children, our kids
Yeah,
can do
yeah.
NFTs.
It's,
Everybody.
yeah. No,
Sorry,
it's true.
Nuno, so go
No,
on.
no, no, it's true, but it's critical to understand that like everyone can create
How?
an NFT, but it's relevant to understand that not all NFTs have value. So this is something very relevant. That is, when we go into the creation concept, if we create something that's highly proprietary of our intellectual, some kind of concept on top of art, it's very easy to create an NFT for it. If it's digital, it's even easier, because if we have local arts, we have this digital twin logic between things that are outside of the blockchain and things that are inside of the blockchain, and the barrier between of them have some fine tunes that have to be achieved so that we can go into that level in the future. But in the future, that will be super relevant because then NFTs are going to represent our houses, our cars, so everything that we
All our
own will
certificates.
be, yeah, it will be certified and transacted into the to blockchain. But as Josino was saying, we can go now and we can create or digital art or collectibles or games that are fully digital, and everyone can work with it and can create with easiness. There is like OpenSea or Rarible solutions where one can go and just mint their own NFTs. Then we have to identify what are the ones who have value. It's the same as a art
In
in the
regular
real life.
art.
Yeah.
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 So, but imagine, Nuno, that I'm very famous now. In this moment, I became someone completely brilliant in NFT. So my art is well recognized. So
Yeah.
I am an artist and you are, and for example, Stella, he wants to buy my art, but she doesn't have money. So
Yeah.
how can she proceed with your company, for example?
That's a use case on our company, something that we are going to build after we are now working on the concept where users can request loans. But the goal is that you have an art and Stella wants to buy it, so she can buy through our company. The art is escrowed with us, and she's doing small payments along the time, and so when she reaches the payment, the art goes to her. So it's a way to get the money flowing, then that nobody gets excluded of having something, because there is a credit opportunity that with a good rate and interest rate that makes sense to the user, because we have using a collateralization, and so we can provide a less risky solution to the user. So that's something very relevant. Thank you for highlighting the use case at that logic. Always useful, Jessica.
No, it's so the objective here is with our more than 200 attendants. Wow, it's to understand how it's relevant, this topic, for the next economy. So you were talking about also about games, and as we saw, Axis Infinities in Philippines created another kind of level of economy for everybody. It's we can say that it's a real inclusion economy. How gaming is doing this? So blockchain, gaming based in blockchain, creating a way to families pay their bills. It's incredible. So I know that's a lot of use cases, as Stella asked us, but keep in mind that all games are trending now, and the subject, it's not about a tool on the blockchain, how we are doing with cryptocurrencies, that is the way, but how I will be in the next decade, which kind of profile you have, which kind of company I will have. May I ask a loan to Nuno's company to buy a piece of the art from a different artist? Or if as an entrepreneur, how can I manage my financial report now? And I decided to invest 3,000 euros in NFTs. How can we manage this? So all these kind of questions, it's to base how we are doing DeFi and how DeFi is doing with our own lives. So it's just to keep a lot of questions, and I'm sure that PECB will have the opportunity to create more panels talking about the future of money, and we have a lot of questions and subjects that is happening now. We are talking, the last 3 months, we are talking about 11 million that worked with crypto. What is the name? No. Crypto crunch, the small figures that we can create it ourselves
Collectible.
Yes, collectible, but yes, we are talking about a different world that managing all this. Okay, we can talk that we are not in post-pandemic world, and this moment was also increased because we spend a lot of time inside and having time to understand how it's going. So Stella, I'm just giving you the opportunity to turn the question, because you have so many topics that it's very interesting, but it is very wide in this moment.
I totally understand. And, as you guys talk and, as we see the interaction of blockchain and how it will transform the world, a key thing is I want to trade with you. I want to trade with Nuno. And the supply chain always comes as a key topic of how can we enable trade among different countries? How can we be more trusted? And at the beginning, Josina, you talked about the one thing that blockchain does is that at the center of the blockchain is the trust. So from a supply chain perspective and looking through at what we've gone through with the pandemic, how the supply chain was affected, what are you seeing? What do you see of how blockchain will affect the supply chain especially?
It's a very interesting question, mainly because we are living a crisis moment in supply chain. So standardization, redundancy, data integrity checks, and integration of data feeds between multiple components are functions that completely answered by blockchain. A blockchain-based system can show us all these kind of benefits. A supply chain is very extensive chain, fragmented, and normally with a lot of countries together. So the current crisis that started with COVID-19, this weekend in Portugal, we have 5 covers from our newspaper talking about problems with supply chain that Ukraine inflation, but it's not very linear to talk about this now. So the current crisis that we can see reductions of employers, closure of a lot of ports, sanitary restrictions, mainly from China, as you know, which caused a really domino effect in all world economy. So today there is a lack, a synchrony between supply and demand. Knowing that demand has increased, for example, CNBC's, the economists, United States is studying deeply this, why demand increased so fast and so high. The regulation of this shortage is expected to take minimum 2 years. For example, CNBC published 5 days ago, big business bosses are warning that supply chain issues and inflation are here to stay. We are talking about the United States, but it's a parameter for Europe and all over the world, for Africa too. So, Stella, blockchain interconnections can offer predictable solutions, and increase efficiency between the agents that are involved from the production process to the final delivery. As we know, technically is possible. Since from the beginning of my thesis, I just answered mathematically and technically we have answered. The problem is political game. So the ability to reorganize production in DAOs, oh, it's another name, decentralized and autonomous organizations through smart contracts, as Nuno explained, can create a system of interaction and transparency between all the agents involved. And 3 days ago, another problem that with supply chain blockchain-based can solve it is 3 days ago, the world watched the United Nations Summit, COP26, in which 45 countries participated and many demands and also concessions were made. Blockchain definitely can be a strategic tool to achieve these goals. So supply chain generates 60% of global emissions, and such as organizations as supply chain leaders have the opportunity to drive the significant impact on sustainability. We are talking a very resilient and responsible answer where ESG, environmental, social, and governance, is built into every step of the process. Is the future of the value chain where we create a win-win situation for people, society, and for the planet. So various working groups is in serious institutions as NATO, World Economic Forum, a lot of universities all around the world is studying hard how to fix these problems that where blockchain can help. Once more time, I don't have answers, I just have path. So maybe our panelists that arrived can going. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Justina.
Thank you, Stella.
Kuram has joined, and I will just give a brief introduction of Kuram. So Kuram is the chair and board of director of iMining, and it's one of the first publicly trading DeFi and blockchain ecosystems. And he was personally involved in blockchain and fintech industry since 2010. So Kuram, welcome to the discussion. We have just talked about how blockchain affects the digital economy. We had touched a bit on regulation. We had also just had some feedback on the supply chain. So maybe as you come in, the banking industry, what can they expect in terms of blockchain? In terms of investments, in terms of banking, what do you see as the next 10 years that probably our listeners should be wary of or be aware of?
No, thank you so much for having me, first of all, and thank you so much, Justina, Stella, Nuno, and I look forward to chatting with you further and connecting. And it's so interesting because the world of blockchain is sort of it used to be a very secretive world, and it was purely because of the fact that regulations were not in place. Even like we own a bank in Africa, in Kenya, and the chairman of the bank, who's my uncle, like wouldn't talk to me about crypto because of the fact that it was illegal, or it was in the gray area. Now what has happened over the last year, in fact last 10 months, is very interesting. Is first of all, there was a birth of DeFi with the Ethereum proof of stake, because before that, DAOs and DEXs were just like what. And proof of stake on Ethereum sort of like propelled this industry, which is now worth in the hundreds of billions of dollars. And the second thing that really happened, thanks to people like Elon Musk and Michael Saylor, is adoption, right? Is like I was discussing with our auditors, and I was explaining to them that every single auditor and every single law firm in North America or in the world will now have to learn about blockchain. Why? Because 8% of all crypto or Bitcoin is held by public companies. A year ago, it was zero, right? So now you got almost 10% of all Bitcoin held by public companies and growing exponentially. Now you've got pension plans getting involved. You've got California firefighters that placed an order. You've got Korean pension plans involved. And it's just sort of the starting on the involvement aspect of it. The banks, like talking to a few chairmen of banks, they don't lead with innovation, they lead with security, and which is very understandable. You cannot have a bank and have $10 million in the bank, and tomorrow morning your banker says, "Oh, you've lost all your money because the bank got hacked." Right? So, like, how is that even possible? So that concept is still not indexes. If you look at the smart contract vulnerabilities indexes, etc., and still a lot of mess ups do happen from not proper hygiene to dexes. But I think the whole community is sort of getting together and developing. I love Nuno's idea, because NFT is such an important way for people to get adopted and understand what is it's, because in Bitcoin it's just a number, right? So explaining to bankers and family offices, hey, there's nothing behind this number except uh, a collective belief that this number has a sense of value, and it is, by the way, costing the world 1 to 2% of the electricity of the world. And so it's a very hard thing to understand, and NFT was a softer image, I would say, to that. And now there's a craze of NFTs. I mean, Coinbase, our friends at Coinbase were just telling yesterday that their NFT platform might be bigger than their exchange platform. They have 2.5 million people already subscribed to their NFT platform, and they plan to launch it, and they charge 2.5% for minting, etc., transfer fees. So NFTs is a very metaverse is a very good way for adoptability of blockchain and use case of blockchain instead of just in the world of finance. Of course, DEXs and DAOs are propelling. I was just looking at a DAO yesterday, which is buying the Constitution of the United States, 1 out of 11, which was pretty interesting. I think that intrigued a lot of people. But that's a security token. It's a fractional ownership of that particular thing, and then governance on top of what you can. So it's a very exciting space, not only from the bankers. One of the other important aspects of people we as a group need to collectively understand are the regulators, the exchange, security exchange commissions, and the IRS and the CRA, and organizations who sort of control these 50 trillion, $100 trillion industry of public markets and derivative markets, right? So these people are listen and willing to learn now. A year ago, it wasn't the case, right? So one of the reasons we came out of a private setting into a public market and a public company setting is to access people like the regulators and people like the government, because being a public company and having oversight and governance, etc., we are, I guess, talked more to by the regulators than a private entity, out of Malta or Switzerland, right? So this is a very interesting and unique position we find ourselves in, is explaining to the regulators, explaining to the world, in fact, what is DeFi and how do you account for DeFi, right? How do you secure DeFi? What are the different use cases of DeFi? And from insurance to lending to exchanges, and it is not stopping, and it is growing exponentially. and there's a lot of challenges in it. So I'm very excited to be part of this industry and be part of this panel, and I can speak forever, I guess. So
It's an
thank you so
interesting,
much for having me.
it's a very interesting discussion we're having, and time is flying. We have 15 minutes left before we need to close. So I'm going to move into the questions that I'm receiving and just
Okay.
give you a bit of time to respond to them. So I have question one here, which is asking about, can I have a very simple uh, explanation of blockchain? And also, is it possible to use it in government? So Kuram, you've talked about it a bit. Maybe I could give you a chance to just give a very simple explanation and how to use it in government.
Sure, and it's so funny explaining blockchain, but one of the easiest way I have realized how to explain the blockchain is think of it as a bunch of think of it as a database of information which is not being controlled by a central body like a bank or etc. It's controlled, or it is attested and by a group of computers and miners all around the world who don't know what they are attesting to. So it's like blind. It's like the bank manager is a blindfolded, and he's just attesting to the transactions, whatever is coming from the miners. And the miners have to use electricity and compete for power in order to send that information to the blindfolded attesters, right? And the miners get compensated by something called a block reward. The block reward is something that the blockchain creates out of thin air and gives it to the miner on every addition of the block to the blockchain. I mean, we can get more complicated on this stuff, but think of it as a database which really Bitcoin really solved the double spend problem. And there's so many other situations around Bitcoin, like limitability, that it's only going to be 21 million Bitcoins, but by 2140, so it's another 140 years left for the 21st Bitcoin to be manufactured or minted. There's about 18 million Bitcoins, 18 plus million Bitcoins minted. But that gave a start to this world of 14, 15,000 other blockchains, which include DeFi protocols, it's proof of stake, Ethereum, Ripple, remittances, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one. Now the governments can really use it for multiple purposes. So we were involved in Miami Coin. Now, the city of Miami, which was I was listening to Mr. Suarez, and it was so interesting because he's planning to disperse about $21 million of dividend to all the citizens of Miami. And the Miami coin is such that if you buy a Miami coin, you basically stake it and you become a miner or a validator. And then 100% of the income, 70% of the income you get to keep as a owner of Miami coin, and 30% of the income is given to the city of Miami in trust to be used as they deem fit. And the city of Miami envisions a future where this crypto economy will move in itself, and the city of Miami will not have to charge taxes. So imagine city of Miami implementing a blockchain ecosystem which is working in it and is generating all the tax needed for the city to operate. So you've got a city which is envisioning a future of not having to tax its residents, and in fact work in partnership with its residents to create financial freedom both for the city and for the residents. So very, very interesting. A lot of cities and countries are looking at it. So that's from a tokenization perspective. The other important aspect is digital identity. Very quickly, and that's one of the reasons it empowered me to get into this, is because we were looking at how to ease of person-to-person payment and create digital identity of it. Now, if you fusion NFT and ability to sort of encrypt an identity, there's multiple use cases where digital identity can be used, which then evolves into election tech. So now you can disrupt You can make sure that there's no corruption in elections, etc., and even get into multiple governance structures within organizations. So you could literally have a blockchain, different blockchain systems, basically running an entire government, coordinating with itself, because in the blockchain world, we believe code is law, right? So if the code is written in a way where all of it interacts, so governments have a multiple ways where they can benefit supply chain logistics, right? From usability of products that are coming into the country or that are going out of the country, traceability of that products, So I believe there are multiple use cases for governments, and the good part about it is that they've all started looking at it comparatively to just a year ago. So when people say, "Hey, it's the beginning," is it the end of blockchain, or how, are we gonna see? What are we gonna see? I always say it's the beginning, and it's just about all of us getting involved and understanding it, because there's no real third party here. To control the space. It's all of us together that we're going to evolve and move forward.
All right. So, just feeding off what you've said, and you've promised quite a number of things. I wish you were a politician in Africa and you were telling me some of the things you're saying. So, Nuno, if you would comment on this question, do you think a country's CBDC can be converted to each other and other cryptocurrencies?
So this is not vinculative and not financial advice, because I can't provide that kind of knowledge, but I believe so. So Kurum was talking about all these interesting topics regarding how the government can work on top of this, and the first is, of course, related with CBDC. So CBDCs can be a very powerful tool for taxing, for creating code laws that apply on top of all of these, and that ensure automatic rules, and that this can be very relevant for insurance, for loans, for taxing. The use case multiply on top of this. I believe that the central bank of Europe, also the Central Bank of America, are working on these topics. We see that basically the emission of CBDCs by these banks will go straight to retail banks, and that the banks on each country will be kind of more as a notifier or a regulator, or someone that creates some kind of institutional advisory and ensures that the ecosystem works fine. It makes sense that we will move into a currency that will be more less border blocked. So it will be more digital, with less written escrow necessities in the real world, so a cheaper coin in reality, even for the government. And I believe that the different countries will interact there. Their CBDCs are going to interact, and for sure they will have a pair to the cryptocurrencies. So as the same way that we have nowadays exchanges, centralized or DEX, the centralized exchange, as Kurum was talking about, where we have transactions between cryptocurrencies, pairs, or cryptocurrencies with fiat money, we will have the capability to interact cryptocurrencies with the CBDCs. It's all a matter of time. It's all a matter of organizing. As soon as we have a clear vision on how all the CBDCs are going to build up and are going to be distributed by the population, by the retail banks in each country, this takes time. So typically, we are now used to the generation of Facebook and the generation of everything
Meta.
happens in Meta. It's the seconds. Everything has to occur in a time frame of 1 hour, or else it doesn't exist. So, but the creation of digital currencies at the regulated level, it takes years. And as Kurum was saying, like, banks cannot afford to misuse or lose the money of everyone else. digital currencies can, and that's the reason why they boom so fast, is because they don't have so much barriers, they don't have so much anchors, and innovation can go faster. But when you go into the de-risking the models, it takes some time. But it will for sure fit. Everything will coexist in the future on a way that maybe we cannot envision yet. Because with these DeFi solutions, we see decentralized exchange methods to do automatic pairing, selling, and buying of coins with pools that are fully automated. So we may not even imagine how this will work and how it will power the metaverse, as Josino was saying. And we are living very interesting times, and let's see where we are and what's ahead.
All right, thank you. So probably in the next 2-3 years, I will not be traveling with the dollar. I will be traveling with, the next big currency. So, Josina, the question here is, given the adoption of the digital currency, or what I refer to as the stable coin, what do you think will happen to the flat currency in the future? So do you think a time will come when the flat currency will cease to exist?
Oh, I need a panel to answer. As an economist, I have a lot of theory. But you cannot imagine. First of all, political game. Okay, we have here all countries, and each one we have different agents with different profiles. What I believe that first of all, the time that we have banks that's just analyzing what is happening, it's not because of trust, it's just because of money. Because if everybody, we have in this moment 233 attendees, if everybody is, for example, clients from Bank of England, and all the time we are asking our money, at the same time we will have a bankrupt. So it is the system. So mainly it's not a problem of trust, it's a problem of that we can make money with this. So fortunately we have now CBDCs and flat money, and I believe that, as Nuno told us, it will be a coexistence. And maybe, as we can see with a lot of examples that we had opportunities to talk, for example, gaming-based token that comes from a game and can jump in real life, and the name is Metaverse. We are talking about a fiction value of money. It's to answer this question that is not a narrow explanation. So we have a token that is created, just a gaming, to have kids, so they're playing, they're receiving bonus, and bonus names tokens, and you have a tokenization. So, and in this moment, we have now 2021, this kind of tokens becoming a real currency, or a cryptocurrency, or another kind of indexation for the economy. So what I can see, it is the next couple of months, as we can see in Cardano, a lot of cryptos. I'm not an expert in cryptos, but I'm analyzing which kind of reflex we have in our companies, in our investments, and how can we view our profiles in the next 10 years. So I believe that we have new indexations. Before it was from dollar, euro, and now we have another one. It's not only because Bitcoins, the value of Bitcoin is 6,000-9,000. I believe that it's enough. One Bitcoin. So you have another kind of parameter of economy. Will be a moment that they're coexisting a lot of parameters, but definitely the old school from economists finished. We need new solutions. we need new projects that can interact. Developing countries, we can interact no banking people, we can interact and inclusion. A couple of, a part of the planet that is completely outside. So I know, I'm conscious that I didn't answer right the way the question, but it's another panel to answer. So it will be a coexistence now, and you have a portfolio with dozens of different projects that comes from not only from, for example, Nuno and current companies, but it's from gaming, it's from solutions, every kind of project that you can create a token can be a currency, why not? So, Stella, I know that you don't have a lot of time more.
Yes, I don't have a lot of time. So, closing comments. We've talked about a lot. We've talked about, and there are some very interesting things which are coming out, that this blockchain cryptocurrency will help in the sustainability agenda that we have. It helps to, create resilience. It helps to create trust and a digital identity. So, closing comments. We can start off with Nuno, and just let us know, your closing comments on this discussion.
Okay. First of all, thank you for all the panelists. Thank you for everyone that is hearing us, and thank you, Stella, for doing the moderation. My closing comments are we are basically in the early internet, but on when we create an analogy with cryptocurrencies and blockchain. So everyone should be aware. If you guys don't never test it, try it. It's easy. It just need to go to Google or Bing or DuckDuckGo, not doing any publicity, but just explore a little bit there, because you can search for good solutions that are good references using Metamask or creating a wallet to interact with this kind of solutions. It's very easy and it's relevant to everyone to start exploring, because there are lots of solutions for finance that can create passive income that can be very relevant. There are lots of solutions for digital identity using wallets, and so it's a way to jump into all of these is just trying. It doesn't take much time. It takes a little bit of comprehension, and everyone that does it. We are 8 billion humans nowadays. There are 80 million cryptocurrency users. So everyone that is jumping in now is going to be ahead of all the other billions that didn't join yet. So it's a look to get some exposure, to test the technology and to try it, because it has concepts related with wallet conservation, and it's nice to start using, because you provide feedback into the people that are creating, and that's something that is lacking. User experience, it's not great yet, because it requires millions of people to go there, to do interactions, to do iterations, and to take this further. So explore, and there are lots of internet helpers. You guys, I believe that I can talk for all the panelists. Just send us emails or LinkedIn contacts, private message if you have some doubts. We can provide some ideas where to start. And this is the future. DAOs, eggs, everything is going to be very traditional in a few years, and so by jumping in now, you get an opportunity to leap forward and to leapfrog from all the others. So it's my closing comments, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Nuno. So quite some advice there. So first of all, in summary, try it. So if you haven't already tried it, just go out there and try it. Josina, what's your closing comment?
Yeah, I will pick just your last words. In upcoming years, with the faster pace of the technology that we are having now, everybody here will have a new profile. So let's start learn, understand, because it's human being, it is the same from Neolithical historic period. We are the same. We have good health, you have security, and you have stability. So my closed comment is inform yourself. If you are a doctor, if you are a lawyer, if you are creating a start company, how can you manage your business in your profile in this new digital era? So my closing comment is study, 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 because it's easy. We were born analogical. My generation, sorry, my generation, but everybody now is digital. So my closing comment is learning is the answer. Thank you, Stella.
All right.
And it was a pleasure, my dear panelists. Thank you very much.
Yursina, quite the words there, that human beings were the same from when this world started off. So, learn, study. Kuram, your closing comments?
No, thank you so much to the other panelists. It's been a pleasure and chatting, and we look forward to doing it again. So I'm the chair of a publicly traded company called iMining Technologies, and we are traded on the Toronto Stock Exchange Venture, and our symbol is IMIN. And one of the things that we're really focusing on is getting support from institutions. And as you can see, recently Metamask launched their Metamask institutional access. And it is very important for companies and corporations and public companies to get interested and put crypto as part of their treasury, right? And that is a very important aspect that every single business should be looking into as we speak, right? And if you don't want to necessarily interact with smart contracts directly, and there's a lot of security issues because you're holding public funds, etc., you can invest in public companies who are doing that, such as all these miners which are doing it, which are our friends, and all these exchanges which are publicly traded. So they have a little bit more oversight, more governance, over them, more people looking at them. So it's a much safer way for you to get exposure to crypto. If you're starting off, if you have a stock brokerage account, you can immediately get into that. The other aspect of it is that even within institution, it's very important. I used to always say, this is again not financial advice, but the whole idea was you have to indulge in it, right? And as long as you indulge in it and you are part of the ship who's in the ocean, when the tide rises, we're all going to rise together. So I concur with what Josina and Nuno was saying. It's about getting involved. As soon as you're involved, you are part of this ecosystem which sort of rises together. And I'm very open to any further messages. My email address is kshroff@imining.com, and LinkedIn, you can find me. I would love to communicate, educate, talk to, or get educated myself. If you have any thoughts for us, we would love to. We're looking at blockchain projects to invest in, especially in the DeFi space. We're looking at different blockchain companies to acquire. So we're very open and looking forward to work with the community and bring in the external community in the blockchain ecosystem. So thank you so much again.
Okay, thank you all panelists. It's been quite a lovely discussion. Powerful words there from Kuram, where he's advising you, if you have a treasury function, make sure they are putting crypto as part of it. So to all the auditors out there, then this can be an area where you're saying, simple, you don't have a crypto function, so how can you get that in? So with that, I would like to, just close this discussion. It's been a wonderful discussion so far. Quite a lot of learning has been, done, and still quite a lot of questions that are coming out, and still people asking about how can I start to use NFTs and the issue about electricity. So many questions which we couldn't be able to answer because simply we ran out of time. But we would love, as you said, to engage with you, and you can engage with any of the panelists, and they will be able to, just answer your questions. So with that, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for being attentive, and we look forward to maybe engaging further. So bye-bye to all, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Nuno. Thank you, Gina. Thank you, Stella.
Thank you, Stella. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.